What's up, Professor? Welcome to my walk-in closet. We're gonna be watching shows that kids might come across and then talking about how that might contribute to their development in one way or another. So yeah, I'm gonna start with Gravity Falls.
Summer break.
So do you want cheese on that, hon?
Sure, kind.
A time for leisure, recreation, and taking her easy. Unless you're me.
This is really intense.
Flirt with every guy you meet?
My name is Mabel, but you can call me the girl of your dreams. I'm joking! Oh my gosh, you like turtles? I like turtles too. What is happening here?
Come one, come all, to the Mattress Prince's kingdom of savings!
Take me with you. Mock all you want, brother, but I got a good feeling about this summer. I wouldn't be surprised if the man of my dreams walked through that door right now.
Not good. Ow.
Oh!
Hey! Let go of my sister! Oh, hey there. This is all really just a big misunderstanding. You see, your sister's not in danger. She's just marrying all 1,000 of us and becoming our gnome queen for all eternity. Isn't that right, honey?
You guys are butt faces!
That's awful.
Right now.
Okay, so Gravity Falls. I have 4 things that I'm judging this on, which also include the instructions in the rubric. So the first thing is what this says about God in creation, what it says about children and parents, whether it encourages active or positive involvement in childhood development, and then I give it how good is this for children overall rating. So first, what it says about God in creation. There's nothing specific about God, but at least from the first episode, the theme is kind of trust. So there's usually an underlying positive theme going on with some sort of redemptive quality, which in this case is trust between siblings who care about each other. What this says about children and their parents, the parents are not present. They sent their kids away for the summer to Oregon, so the parents aren't really involved. Every character besides Dipper, the main protagonist, the boy, is kind of portrayed as dumb or up to something, especially adults. They're either dumb or they're up to something. So this may cause kids to question authority to an extent or have mistrust of adults. Whether this encourages active or passive involvement in childhood development, I would say that it promotes imagination and curiosity. That's a lot of the themes I see here, but it may cause children to feel mistrust towards some people. A lot of the humor is dark and a lot of people are out to get the kids, so that may cause negative effects on kids. So is this good for kids? I'd say there's some edgy jokes.
What you reading there, Slick?
Oh, I was just catching up on, Gold Chains for Old Men magazine?
That's a good issue.
There's some sarcasm and a somewhat negative attitude towards adults, but there's also a positive theme that's usually underlying in the story. There's also some irony and critical thinking in the script, and I think that may have somewhat of a positive influence to help kids become smarter, because they're kind of expanding some of their vocabulary and some of their humor. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 5. Nothing too concerning, but nothing too positive either. Alright, so next up, I heard of this thing called Behind the News, and it's run by ABC, and it's designed for kids to be able to understand the news. So I'm gonna kind of check out some of the content that they've got on Behind the News and see what kids are being shown when it comes to news networks. I was very interested to realize this was a real thing.
Which he's calling what? The Golden Dome, the Steel Dome, or the Thunder Dome? It's the Golden Dome.
It's kind of interactive. I almost feel like the editors for Dora the Explorer combined with the news networks, and it's kind of funny.
You could think of it a bit like a political marriage. 2 parties came together and made a promise to work together, vote similar ways, and if elected, share power.
So this is really interesting. To make the news understandable, they're using examples. Okay, so this was really interesting. I have never seen anything like this before as far as like kids TV broadcasts, and this was something from I think about 5 months ago. I think what it says about God or creation is that it is showing the news of God's creation. It's going through what current events are going on and what people are doing. There were some redemptive themes I saw too. There was something about, I think they used a word like I think it was Redemption Week, where they were trying to have kids in some countries make friends with some of the indigenous peoples of the countries. So I see like that they're trying to show the news and also show positive themes. It's also a lot more careful to use respectful terms when talking about other people, which I think is good for kids as well. So I do think that teaches us a little bit about God or creation, or at least about interacting with people appropriately. What it says about children and parents is, I think overall, I don't see any negative thing. If anything, kids watching the news in a way that helps them understand may encourage conversations between kids and parents, and I would hope that the broadcasters would encourage that too. Whether it encourages active or passive involvement in childhood development, I think this as an idea is really good. I'm not sure I appreciate the people making this broadcast, but the idea behind it reminds me of the conversations I used to have with my dad growing up about the news. It was explained to me in a way I could understand. So I think this is good for a kid to be aware in a way that's appropriate for them. Maybe a kid is not ready to hear about all the tragedies happening in the world, but maybe it's really helpful for them to hear appropriately little bits at a time. So I think that can be very helpful in development. As far as whether or not this is good for children, this particular broadcast, I do see a little bit of bias, so I wouldn't say that this broadcast necessarily is helpful. This in particular, maybe I give it a 4. If kids are talking to their parents though, absolute 10. If this drives kids to talk to their parents, or if we're able to find a way to do this without bias, I think this is very helpful for kids. So for this broadcast, a 4 out of 10, but the idea, 10 out of 10 for sure. The next one we're gonna look at is Deal or No Deal, and the reason I picked this is because it's, from my understanding, it's re-aired over and over again, and this is just something that a lot of people turn on when they have a large audience, right? So it's something that grandparents and parents and kids will all be entertained by to some degree. So this is something I think a lot of kids will see. I know people who are like, yeah, I'd go over to my grandparents' house and this is what we'd watch and stuff. So we're gonna check that one out.
The new offer is $147,000.
Wow. Nice fun.
You could say no deal, throw back $147,000.
I'm walking out of here with that $1 million. No deal.
Okay, deal or no deal. I don't really know what to say about this one, to be honest with you. So what it says about God or creation, there's really no information about God or anything of that sort. It does talk about people's personal lives, so sometimes people might mention something religious from their background. What it says about children and parents, I do think it says some positive things on this. A lot of the contestants are there for their families, so you see a lot of father-daughter in this episode. So I do think it does encourage family togetherness and closeness, and a lot of people are there because they want to provide for their families, so I think that's a positive thing. Whether this encourages active or passive involvement in childhood development. So I do think a lot of kids are watching this and they're trying to understand, how does this game show work, and there's a lot of math and there's a lot of guessing. So I do think it will build some critical thinking skills. It'll also cause kids who might be watching this with other people to kind of ask more questions and build relationships. So I think it'll help development in the sense that it'll help kids become smarter and more literate. What I do think that it might be bad for kids' development, and this may be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I'm not a big fan of the way that they portray some of the women who are holding the boxes. I think you could say, not as much in this episode that I watched, but especially in other ones, that it can get pretty provocative. And for me, if I was a father, I wouldn't want my sons or my daughters to be influenced to kind of see things that way. And I do think that the way people are portrayed in this episode is encouraging people to think in a way that is not appropriate. And so I wouldn't want my daughters to feel like that's the expectation for them, or that they're supposed to be looked at in a particular way, and I wouldn't want my sons to be encouraged to do that either. So as far as childhood development, I do think they could tone it back a little bit. There's nothing wrong with beauty, but there is an extent where people are seen more as objects. And just a personal preference, if I was a parent, I'd be concerned about this show. So there are positive and negative. For me, just if I was a parent, the negatives outweigh the positives, because I care more about, because I value literacy a lot less than other things character-wise. So I'm going to give it a 3. I think if it didn't include that element I didn't like, I'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8, but it's just a big deal for me. Might just be a personal thing. I don't know. So we already did a kids show with Gravity Falls, but I wanted to do an older kids show as well, because that might tell us a little bit too. Also, a lot of kids, their parents turn on older shows rather than newer ones, so I think it's worth doing. So we're gonna be watching Scooby-Doo next. Okay, so Scooby-Doo makes me smile. That cracks me up. I didn't grow up watching Scooby-Doo, but a good friend of mine recommended it, so I started watching it. Yeah, I feel like, at least, when the old Scooby-Doo from the 70s, all of that, I think there's this like mystery, it's a simple mystery, easy enough to be understood by kids, and it just stretches the mind where it's like, a kid has to watch it and think critically just a little bit in order to figure it out. And as an adult, you're watching it and you're like, I know who the criminal is. But for kids, like, I think it pushes them just a little bit to make them smarter. What does it say about God or creation? There's really no discussion about God. There are a lot of like ghosts and like spiritual things that usually end up not being spiritual at all, and it's just rational. So maybe there is like a little bit of an atheistic push. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it. This does tell us a lot about friendship, people working together, so there might be some positive elements there that might be somewhat biblical. What does this say about children and parents? We really don't see children and parents in this. It's just kind of a bunch of kids solving mysteries. So where are the parents? What happened to the parents? Why aren't the parents involved? Who knows? I don't know either. So there's an exclusion of parents, but that doesn't necessarily say anything negative about parents. Whether this encourages active or passive involvement in childhood development, I think this actually encourages active childhood development. I really do think it helps children think critically. And it's also funny, it's entertaining. I think it could bring children and parents together, especially since it's old and nostalgic. I just see positive things, causing children to think, and being funny, and I think good, legitimate humor is good for kids as well. It helps them develop a sense of irony, and it helps them to develop cognitively. I really do think it does. So is this good for children? Good for children rating. It might be a little spooky, but it's not too much. I'm gonna give it like, it's not like the greatest thing in the world, but I think it's overall good, so I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Scooby-Doo is the winner of this project for sure.